I'm Dave Pyper. I've been in practice for about 19 years. I do general civil litigation. Actually, I know the attorneys from the firm from years and years ago. When I was on the defense side of a case, I know Bob and John had a large case against an automotive manufacturer, and I was actually on the other side of the case as a junior associate. And I was very impressed with them at hearings that I would attend or the quality of the work that they would put out. So that was my first familiarity with them. So I've known, not them personally, but I know the firm and their work for almost 20 years now. The Root case was tremendously sensitive case. It involved a young boy who was being pulled in a wagon by his aunt. And they had gone through a construction site with the boy in the back of the wagon, and the site wasn't closed. And they allowed this aunt and his 3-year-old boy into an active construction site. And little Gage got excited then, jumped from the wagon, and was immediately hit by a car and suffered catastrophic brain injuries. It was lucky that he even lived. And the family was in a very difficult situation. They were living on almost no income, single mother. She had another daughter at the time, and I came to see her because she had consulted a local attorney in her area. It was in the west coast of Florida. And that attorney essentially did a little bit of workup, sent a demand letter, got a rejection, and then just passed on the case and walked away from the case. So when I went out to see, I was a little skeptical of the case because there was a prior attorney involved. But when I sat down and I saw the case, saw the family, got some additional details, and began to talk to witnesses and do a little bit of legwork, then it impressed me that the case had a lot of merit, that there was a family that really needed help, and we were coming up against statutes of limitations at that time. So I had to quickly make a decision to come into the case and to pursue the case at that point. I'm a sole practitioner, and a case like this can take up your entire practice as a sole practitioner. So it made sense from a standpoint of my practice to seek outside counsel. Now, it also would benefit my client because I knew it was going to be an expert-driven case. It was going to be very complex, and I knew associating with a firm like Kelley Uustal would benefit my client, and ultimately it's one of the best decisions I ever made in the case. When I first considered partnering with another firm, I first looked to where the case was located, and it was in the west coast of Florida, not the east coast. And I did make some phone calls and talk to some attorneys on the west coast. And they didn't seem to really want to listen to the details of the case. The fact is that there was a boy who jumped out of a wagon, and that in and of itself was was enough for a lot of people just to say, no, I'm not interested in the case, and not look deeper into the liability issues. And none of them really were interested enough even to say come into the office or bring the file in along those lines. And I had known Todd Falzone for quite some time, and usually, this is the first time I'm associated with Todd. Usually I'm adverse to Todd. And being adverse, I have a lot of respect for him, both for his abilities as an attorney, for his professionalism, and his general reputation. So I knew that potentially that could be a good fit. So I had actually called Todd and gave a little thumb view of the case. And unlike the other attorneys, he said, come on in my office, bring whatever you have. We'll sit down, we'll take an hour, we'll look through the files, and that's exactly what happened. I came here into the law firm with 8 or 9 banker boxes, and Todd wasn't frowning about it, wasn't saying, what's this paper? He was immediately digging into the boxes. So at that point, it made for a very easy decision at that point. Also, Todd was very good with client relations initially, because it was very important to me with the relationship I developed with my client to bring somebody in that the client could feel comfortable with. And could also feel like I'm not abandoning her like her other attorneys had. And so there was a very good match with Todd because it was very collaborative. We worked as a team, so it didn't feel like to the client that she was losing an attorney. It felt to her she was gaining an attorney, and she was very happy about that. Ultimately, it was knowing Todd's ability, knowing the complexity of the case, and finding a good match between the two. The case was fact-intensive, but it was very much expert-driven. And I know the reputation for the firm dealing with experts in complex cases. be it med-mal, be it product liability. It was that type of case. So I knew it was going to be a good fit. Absolutely, you did a good job. You exceeded any expectation I had of the case by a factor of maybe 2 on my best day. And not only the outcome of the case, but the way the case was handled. The client was kept fully informed. The strategy used was ingenious. The case moved quickly, which for the client was important because her first lawyer had the case and didn't do anything until the statute almost ran, and there were years going by. And here was a family struggling every week to basically put food on the table. So I was very happy that the case got to a conclusion as fast as it did. The outcome was very good for the family, number one, that now there's a child with a catastrophic brain injury that will be taken care of until his last breath. So from that perspective, yes, I'm absolutely happy because the client was served. The client's needs were met. The client is now going to be protected for the rest of his life, which was the most important thing in the case. I'm satisfied because I was very happy with the collegial nature of the representation. I was kept fully informed. The client was very happy. So I know I made a good decision, not only based on the outcome, monetary outcome of the case, but because the client was happy and because ultimately the needs of the client, lifelong needs, were met in the case. It was excellent communication. The way the case was worked up was almost the judge had set aside a week every month where discovery was going to go on. And Todd would be in depositions all day, or he'd be driving here and there, and he'd always make time when there was an important expert to give me a call, 5 or 10 minutes, and give me the thumbnail to keep me up to date on the case. So I never felt the need during the case to pick up the phone and say, what's going on? I didn't have to do that because Todd would always keep me informed. So that, I think, tells you all you need to know about communication when I don't have to reach out, that I'm getting phone calls. I'm working with the firm on another matter. There's a class action pending against a case moving towards class certification against the Broward County School Board involving autistic children, maybe affecting 3,000 to 4,000 children. And the decision of who I would use to come in for class counsel was an easy one. Another partner in your firm, Jordan Lewis, has come into that case. He's been arguing it for a year. And I have every confidence in him in that case, and I wouldn't hesitate to refer another case to the firm. Absolutely. I mean, if nothing else, you'll get somebody who actually look at the case, and unlike other attorneys I had talked about earlier who didn't even want to see the file, you'll get another set of eyes on the case. If it has merit, or if they think the firm can help, I'm sure they'll come in and without hesitation. And it's a firm I would highly recommend. I have no reservations to do so. I would just like to thank the firm for helping the Root family. They were in a very difficult situation when I came to meet Todd for the first time. Years had gone by. Little Gage's basic needs weren't being met. And I want to thank them for the job they did for the Root family.